Everyone knows crows are smart. They recognize faces, they can make and use tools. But how smart? And how do they learn? Animal intelligence has evolved in many different ways in many different creatures. We often think of our fellow primates at the top of the intelligence list with their ability to use tools like sticks and rocks to access food, and with their ability to recognize themselves in the mirror. If we survey the world of animals, one of the smartest is one that is perhaps unexpected, an animal that isn't a mammal at all, but a bird. Crows, or more generally, corvids, are mischievous, playful, and extremely intelligent. They use tools to forage and to solve complex problems. They even drop nuts on a road for cars to crack and then pick them up with the safety of pedestrian lights. They can also recognize faces and can hold a grudge against someone who is rude to them for several years. They can mimic sounds that they hear, and scientists have found that their problem-solving skills rival those of a 7-year-old human. Intelligence seems to thrive in animals like this, mammals, often carnivorous ones that live in tight social groups. So how is it that we even measure their intelligence in the first place? Is bird intelligence wired in the same way as a mammal intelligence, or is it something different altogether? The corvid family, also known as the crow family, includes crows, jays, ravens, rooks, and magpies. The level of intelligence varies between the species, but scientists have found that the New Caledonian crow is the most intelligent. They are to corvids what we are to the rest of the primates. In 2014, the crows were presented with various tubes filled with water, with a treat floating on top which they couldn't quite reach. In one trial, when presented with a treat inside a tube of water and a treat sitting on top of sand, the crows knew to drop rocks into the water-filled tube to raise the water level to reach the treat and ignored the tube with sand. In the next trial, when presented with a single tube of water and objects with various densities, the crows need to select the sinking objects rather than the floating ones to reach the treat. When presented with two tubes of differing water levels, the crows need to drop objects in the tube with the higher water level to reach the treat faster. These trials demonstrated the crows' abilities in both problem solving and tool use, and the authors believe that their skill level at deciphering and completing these tasks is similar to that of 5 to 7-year-old children. However, in two more challenging tasks, the crows didn't perform as well. One required understanding the difference in a wide tube versus a narrow tube, and another was a counterintuitive task where the tube with the reward was connected to another tube via a hidden U-band. The crows didn't fully grasp these setups, but in comparison, during tests with human children, only kids around 8 years old were able to consistently solve such tests. In addition to using tools, New Caledonian crows can build tools, and not just simple ones, but ones with multiple parts. When given objects that were too short to retrieve food from a puzzle box, New Caledonian crows combined elements by inserting one stick into the hollow opening of another to make a tool long enough to reach the food. One crow even made 3- and 4-part tools. Compound tool construction like this has only been observed outside humans in a few captive great apes. It's usually only associated with human intelligence. And in addition to this, we now think crows might be better than we ever could have imagined at making plans for the future. The ability to take actions now that will give a benefit later is not something that most animals are good at. Delayed gratification and planning are high-order skills. Human children can't do this, and neither can many of the adults that I know. It requires a memory of the past and foresight for future events. Can crows of all animals really possess this ability? In a study published in 2020, primate brains are not at all the same. Birds and mammals split on the evolutionary tree 320 million years ago, and since then, their brains have become quite distinct from one another, making scientists question exactly why corvids are so smart. In vertebrates, the pallium is the gray and white matter that covers the brain. Before the evolutionary split, both birds and mammals evolved a large pallium, but after their lineage split, the mammalian pallium evolved into a layered structure known as the cerebral cortex. This is the most complex structure of the mammalian brain. Each layer contains nerve fibers running horizontally and vertically that process and transmit information. Here is where many important functions take place, including learning, memory, sensory perception, and conceptual thinking. Birds don't have a cerebral cortex, but a study published in 2020 found that the fibers and circuitry in the bird pallium are organized very similarly to a mammalian neocortex, with fibers running both horizontally and vertically. The authors believe this explains where bird intelligence comes from. Another reason why birds were initially thought to be incapable of this level of intelligence was due to the small size of their brains. But it's not the absolute size of an animal's brain that matters, but the brain-to-body ratio. Crows tend to have big brains compared to their body size. In mammals, the bigger-brained individuals are humans and dolphins. In birds, it's parrots and crows. However, as scientists, understanding of the brain group, they discovered it wasn't just size that mattered, or even brain size relative to body size. A big proponent of animal intelligence is the density of neurons. This is because having tightly packed neurons leads to better communication between them, and it turns out that certain bird species have very densely packed neurons. In a 2016 study, as researchers measured the number of neurons in various bird and primate species, they found that some birds like corvids have twice as many neurons as primates with similarly sized brains, with numbers closer to that of larger primates. While these findings tell us how crows are so smart, the question remains as to why plenty of bird species thrive with fewer neurons and weaker mental abilities. So why did crows evolve this way? One theory is that it has to do with the way they are raised. Unlike other species, corvids spend more time with their parents. Neocaledonian crows are fed by their parents for up to 2 years. During this time, they have ample access to role models who are making and using tools and have the opportunity to use these tools themselves. This extended parenting time allows skill to be transmitted vertically, meaning from parent to offspring. The family groups of many species of crow can be very tight, with young crows even helping to defend their parents' nest nest of babies. However, beyond tight family groups, adults of many species of corvids don't lead particularly social lives. New Caledonian crows mate for life, but otherwise don't really interact with other adults. Other species of corvid will often forage and roost in large groups, or work together to mob a predator, but there isn't a social hierarchy or complex social bonds in these settings. This seems to go against one leading theory of intelligence, called the social intelligence hypothesis. Chimpanzees, for example, live in large and complex social groups, where they have to interact with others outside their immediate family and keep tabs on many relationships. It's a constant game of politics. Dogs, wolves, and even orcas have to deal with a great amount of social complexity, and this social intelligence needs a lot of brain power. If adults of many of the smartest corvids don't live in complex social groups, why will just similar intelligence have evolved? Adult corvids may rarely live in wide social groups, but often juveniles do. Before pairing up with a mating partner during their teenage years, some species of corvids live in larger flocks, aptly called juvenile gangs. And these gangs work exactly like they sound. A bunch of teenagers hang out, bully each other, and fight. In these angsty years, corvids like ravens, for example, form the many relationships that they have to keep tabs on. And intriguingly, corvids may need social intelligence to interact with other species. Outside of Yellowstone National Park, certain ravens have been seen interacting with wolves, especially wolf pups. The animals have been seen playing tug of war, and the ravens tease and entice the puppies to jump and grab sticks. Sometimes the ravens will even pull the wolves' tails. By all accounts, it looks like the animals are playing. Some scientists think that individual ravens may even develop special bonds with individual wolves within pack. This relationship building may help the ravens more readily scavenge the wolf's skill. This propensity to interact with other species has some groups wondering how we may be able to cooperate with corvids. One idea is to train crows and other corvids to pick up cigarette butts or garbage. A few different companies are developing devices that will autonomously train the birds, giving them a treat once they place the trash into the device. A theme park in France has already been undertaking a similar operation. They trained 6 rooks to pick up trash for days a week under the supervision of the park's falconer. While it may seem like we are taking advantage of these birds and their intelligence by having them to do something we should already be doing ourselves, those involved seem to have good intentions. It helps environment, teaches humans to cooperate with another species, and teaches the public about these intelligent creatures. Thank you for watching. If you loved the video, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and comment what you think about.